Welcome to our third webinar in the 7-part series about dual credit in Kentucky. Today's a very special event because we have our first ever panel discussion, and we'll be talking about how to create strong partnerships between high schools and college. I'm going to share my screen now to show you a couple of details about today's webinar. Our special guests today include James Catchin, whose Twitter handle, hey, it's the dual credit guy, says it all. James coordinates all things related to dual credit for Thomas More University. Emily Thurman, who's the mighty team of one and does it all at Maysville Community and Technical College, is also here. You will love her ideas for building relationships with partners and students and families. Also joining us today is the dynamic duo from Eastern Kentucky University, Heather Davis and Aaron Baker, and they are the director and assistant director at EKU's Dual Credit and Transition Services Department. Last, but certainly not least, is CPE's own Mitzi Holland. She is the director of the Kentucky Advising Academy, and she's also served as a school counselor who coordinated dual credit. We have so much to talk about in so little time, but please stay tuned until the end of the webinar because Trinity will be giving you some access to examples and templates that our panelists have created and been very generous to share. They've used these in their work with partners and students and families. We're very grateful for their willingness to share these gold mines. You don't want to miss it. As always, we will have a question and answer box where you can type in any questions or comments that you have. And we love seeing your reactions to our guests and their great ideas throughout the webinar. Well, without further ado, I'd like to welcome James and Emily and Heather and Aaron and Mitzi into the Zoom room. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being with us today. We're going to do a round of questions for individuals, and then a little bit later on, we'll open it up for just some general questions that anybody can respond to. So I'd like to start with a couple of questions for Emily. Emily, you talk a lot about relationships. We'd love to hear about how do you establish and then maintain relationships with your students, your parents, your partners, all of that.
So the first word that comes to mind is presence. Again, I'm the one person. I have 19 high schools, several ATCs, and career techs. I visit every school at least twice a semester. So I visit them to register for dual credit. I go back and do orientation with them. I want them to see my face. I want them to know me. I want them to feel like they're meeting with a college advisor and they have that special time to feel like a college student, even though they are in high school. I get to meet with my counselors. I get to see their face. So for me, it's just building that relationship. It's just being there and them knowing me and me knowing them.
Yeah. You have any special tips for managing all of that in your calendar?
I have 3 kids, and so I just learned how to just do it. No, it takes a lot of challenges, but my counselors are great. They're good at reminding me, and I'm great at reminding them. And so we kind of work as a team together.
Gotcha. You also mentioned in our previous conversation about wanting to make sure that Maysville students are pre-Gen Ed certified. Can you talk a little bit about what that means and how it's helpful to students?
Sure. Yes. KCTCS, which is who we are part of a system of, we have an established dual credit approved list that we offer students to take. And they are consistent of general education courses. So what our plan is that they get the opportunity to meet general education requirements as dual credit students. Most of my students will meet that Gen Ed certification by the time they graduate high school, which is great for them. It's cost saving for parents. And it's good for them to be able to transfer and start into those major courses that they would prefer to be in instead of those Gen Ed courses. But they usually can knock out all of the Gen Ed courses prior to graduating with the opportunity to do so.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. I see some nodding heads here on our panel. Everybody's in agreement with you about that. Thank you, Emily. Now I've got a few questions for James. James, you mentioned that one of your strengths, you called it managing out to counselors. Can you talk a little bit about that and your meticulous communication with your partners?
Sure. So when it comes to dual credit, I've worked at a public university with a large dual credit population. And now I work at a private university with a small dual credit population. So in both cases, I've been pretty much one person working with anywhere from between 20 to 40 high school partners. Each of those high school partners have their own objectives and rules for dual credit, but in all cases, high schools will know their students better than I ever could on an individual level. Therefore, it becomes paramount for me and the success of the students I serve to work collaboratively with my partners and high school counselors to delegate so they can manage their specific students.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you talk a little bit more about like the delegation? You said you called it
Sorry.
meticulous
When I meet
communication.
with
I'd love
any
to hear about that.
prospective high school partner, or perhaps I'm training new counselors and they're assuming the dual credit mantle within their high school, I like to go in prepared with a handy guide of what my program offers and how high school counselors, their students, and high school faculty will be impacted. I'll make sure that you guys share this guide out from CPE, but in general, here's kind of what I've built in. So crucially, we want to identify who the main point of the contact is at the high school. This person receives weekly program updates that I email out. This person's also added to a Google Drive file to manage dual credit applications and other materials for their school alongside me. The guide explains what courses we offer, including but not limited to general education offerings, major specific pathway options, advising for online and on-campus students, and the credentialing process for offering courses at the high school. The guide also answers many of the most common questions, including what are the requirements to participate in dual credit? What is our application and registration process? What support do we provide for students and faculty? And lastly, what's our program's timeline? So counselors kind of know what to expect and when. By the time a partnership's ready to commence, counselors will have all the resources they need to distribute to their students as they work closely with them on their dual credit journey from application to participation.
Wow, I'm sure those counselors really appreciate you doing that front loading work for them. Appreciate you sharing that resource as well. I have one other question for you, James. I know that you have some kind of unique ways of determining like what courses are best for the students that you serve and maybe what courses are best for the community that you serve. So how do you learn about that, and how do you just make those decisions?
Sure. So aside from the obvious offerings of general education courses, I find it most helpful to start just by having a conversation with those closest to managing a high school's dual credit program so that I can kind of take an assessment of their particular needs. From there, I like to kind of infuse into the conversation what I know to be my university's most popular majors. So like business or nursing, whatever that might be, whatever those might be, and local industry trends so that I can kind of build pipelines that benefit each high school, university, and the students as a whole. Overall, I kind of think it's important to remember that each dual credit program is not out to fight with one another. And we're not out to eliminate any high school AP courses. We're focused on the student. So I think there's room for everyone and everything. The crucial point, I think, is that we're collectively providing as many opportunities for students in every avenue imaginable.
Oh, wow. Appreciate you keeping students at the center of that. And also, thinking about local and statewide. Thank you so much, James. I want to change gears now and talk to Heather and Aaron. A couple of questions for you all. Heather, I want to start with you. You said that one of your main goals as director of dual credit at EKU is to be a good partner while maintaining the quality of the post-secondary education standards and the requirements for the coursework. So can you tell us a little bit about this dance?
So it is in fact a dance. The hope is to give a quality product, right? And so we want the schools to, and the parents, because we are engaged with the family, the community. We want people to know that the courses we're offering are to the standard that every other university and college in Kentucky would deem appropriate to give credit for. And so that is the reason why we hold to those standards. And so then communicating that, we communicate that from the very beginning. We want people to know exactly where we stand. We want people to know exactly what test scores are required, what GPA is required, what other coursework is required, so that everybody knows going in exactly what the standard is. And so we try to communicate that from the very beginning. If there's any question, we always answer that quickly. And then not only that, though, we ask for all the things we need ahead of time. And so everybody should know exactly kind of where we stand. We work with departments on campus to be sure that we are offering a quality product, and that includes the instructor. We make sure that the departments have a huge stake in determining what the class is, who the instructor is, if the instructor is credentialed, all of those things. And so everything like that goes into keeping that standard high, so that the counselor, the student, the parent, and other school stakeholders can know that what we are offering is a quality product.
Yeah, thank you. I'm hearing a theme of communication and the best possible outcomes for students that that we can create. Thank you for that. Aaron, I know that your strength seems to be in the area of efficiency, and so we're all always looking for time. So I'd like for you to tell a little bit about, you mentioned that you try to eliminate soft and hard barriers for your students and your partners. So I'd like to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, of course. So with soft and hard barriers, the first thing to kind of take a look at, identify those, is to look at all the processes that you have, and see where you are with your partnerships. You need to have a pulse on where your students are making suggestions, where they're asking questions, because if they're asking a question, that means they don't know. And so if you understand where your students are asking questions, where your counselors are asking questions, and where your on-campus partners, the academic departments, the registrar's office, if you know exactly where they're asking questions, that might be a soft or hard barrier for them. So you need to have a pulse on that. You need to identify, like I was saying earlier, you need to identify and engage with your processes to really determine whether or not those are as effective as they could be. And you kind of have to run into it with the mindset of it may work, but how can we make it work better? And so that's kind of the name of innovation, is while things work, how can we make them better? And so, during your downtime, of course, there's never really true downtime in higher ed and in dual enrollment, but in the downtime in the non-peak recruitment season and non-peak registration season, that is the perfect time to be doing those evaluations of your processes, evaluations of the communications, and what you're offering to your students, to your partners, to your on-campus partners.
I love the idea of just keeping on getting better, right? Just continue
Exactly.
that process. You mentioned a specific process that you have in place called a communication plan. Like that's a thing, that's a noun for you. So I'm curious, what is a communication plan at EKU? And just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So communication plans are exactly what they sound like. It's a plan of communication. At EKU, we have communication plans for how we're going to communicate to our dual enrollment students, how we're going to communicate to our counselor partners in the high schools, how we're going to communicate to the instructors that we have teaching our dual credit courses in the high schools, how we're going to communicate to our on-campus partners as well. And so every group has their own specific plan. Every group has this set of information. And so I'll dive into our student communication plan because that seems to be the most relevant, our student and counselor communication plan. And so we look at a semester, we divide it up by semesters. We have fall and spring and summer, of course. And we know, based off of our calendars and the university's official calendars, what's going on every week. And so the point of the communication plan is to have a plan of how we're going to communicate what's going on to our students and to our counselors. And so we have this plan living on this Excel sheet, and it details what the communication is, what it's for, who it's going to, when it's going to go out. And then utilizing our CRM Slate, we're actually able to go ahead and draft those communications and schedule them to go out in partnership with our admissions communications team. And so having a plan of exactly how you're going to communicate with your students, with your counselor partners, is a good way to keep them in communication, in constant communication, because if they don't know, you can't expect them to know. And so
Right.
we can keep them in constant communication, but utilizing Slate CRM to go ahead and draft those and schedule them ahead of time allows us to free up our time in the session to take care of things that need our attention. And communications, of course, are necessary things, but it's something that we can work ahead of time on. And so having those communication plans is one of those elements of innovation and planning ahead to keep our partners and students informed.
Yeah, so frequent touch points with students so that they can no surprises. I'm hearing a theme of no surprises from the EKU.
Exactly. It can be calendar events, it can be university events, it could be, when registration opens, it could be, this week is spring break, or it could just be, how are you doing? How do you feel about your classes? If you don't feel like you're doing so well in your classes or you need additional resources, here is the contact information for the EKU Student Success Center for free tutoring. Here's information for our counseling center for free counseling. It's those kinds of communications that make the difference with your students.
All right. All right. Thanks, Aaron. I have one more really quick question for EKU. We just have about a minute to get this question in, but I really think it's important. I know that you have a unique opportunity that I'll call a targeted dual credit pathway, like aviation and criminal justice, all high need areas that you've created. So just real quickly, how did this get started and how did you build it?
All right, I'll take that one. So essentially at the heart of everything we do concerning pathways, we listen to the schools. The schools reach out to us a lot and say, hey, we want to offer some aviation. We want to offer something with regard to criminal justice. And then we work with our academic departments to build exactly what the school wants. And often that will be in the form of four classes that could later be considered a CTE pathway in the schools. And so a lot of our pathways are online. And so that has enabled us to take specifically the aviation pathway across the state, really. And so we have developed 4 online courses with the aviation department. We put students in there. We, do that process exactly like we do any other process. And the students are better for it. And they take a class every semester, one course every semester. They usually start in the junior year and it works out well.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, EKU. Now I'm going to turn attention to Mitzi. I've got a couple of questions for you and then we'll open it up for the whole group. Mitzi, I know that you've been a counselor, a school counselor, and I was wondering, our data shows us that students, especially students who are experiencing poverty, are often much less likely to take advantage of dual credit than their peers. And I know that you have worked in schools to try to close those gaps. So tell us a little bit about how do you open up access for more students?
Okay. Well, Robin, I came from a small rural district where I served as the college and career coach and the dual credit coordinator there. And we did a lot of individual outreach and we were in constant communication with these kids. We had about 580 students and the majority of our students did qualify for free and reduced lunch. So we were a low socioeconomic district. A lot of times your higher achieving students, they are automatically driven to try the dual credit, the higher academic. They have maybe a little bit more support. So we would do a lot of individual outreach to target those kids that fell into that group. And we would just encourage them to start with, a general ed class. We were very fortunate to have a lot of students a lot of teachers in our building that were qualified and were able to teach dual credit through several local colleges. So having that person that they knew and that person there that could provide that extra support gave them an opportunity to experience a dual credit class and be successful in that dual credit class. And then we would encourage them to try an online class. We were also very fortunate that we were able to partner with South Central Kentucky Community and Technical College and our area technology center to, we referred to it as collaboration and credits. So we would look at ways that they could maximize opportunities while they were in high school. So you would have a lot of students that were ATC students that really didn't think that they were eligible or able to take those dual credit classes. So when you would sit down with those students and you would talk to them and say, okay, if you want to go become a welder, if you want to go become an electrician, or if you want to become whatever, you still need certain college classes and you still have to take the English and the math and those kinds of things. And we can help you start that here at high school. So we paid particular attention to students who were in those CTE pathways, and we looked at the programs like the aviation programs and a lot of the programs through the community and technical college, and encouraged students to take those CTE pathway courses that would help them earn industry certifications, complete pathways, and then help them transition to post-secondary.
Yeah. Thanks, Mitzi. I know that there are a lot of benefits in terms of, shorter times in college and economic benefits for dual credit, but you mentioned some kind of softer benefits for students that were important as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I mean, a lot of times they don't believe that they can do it. And just having them be successful and just seeing their faces light up and, the feeling of accomplishment. Granted, they're saving money, and a lot of times they don't realize how much they can save by utilizing those work ready dual credit scholarships and things like that. But it's more of the I am capable and those things that you can't put a price on that really make it worthwhile for those students and for those teachers.
Yeah. Thanks, Mitzi. Okay, so I've got just a few minutes left with you all, and I want to open it up for a couple of questions. Just feel free to jump in. Kind of following in this same vein that we've been talking about, equity is really important to our state when it comes to post-secondary opportunities. So I'm just wondering, do any of you all, in addition to what Mitzi has said, do any of you all have any great ideas about helping more of our underserved students get access to dual credit? And how can we make sure that they have supports they need to be successful? Who wants to jump in?
I mean, I don't care to go ahead and start. I'm not going to be quiet when it comes to equity for all students to have everything that they can to be successful. I think the biggest thing that we try to do is we try to make a good experience for the students. So the students speak for us. They speak for us, the counselors speak for us, and we want our reputation, quite frankly, to precede us. And so because of that, we want students to say to their friends who may think, I don't really know if dual credit's for me, be it a self-proclaiming, self-fulfilling prophecy, or something that they've maybe been told. We want their friends to tell them, hey, I took this class with EKU and I was struggling at midterm, and Aaron reached out to me and he said that there was tutoring, and I reached out to that service and I got that service. And I mean, like, without that help, I may not have gotten through, but it could be helpful for you too. And it could be a thing that you can do, because they don't just let you fend for yourself. They don't just let you swim around and drown. They don't let you do that. And so I want students' experiences to speak for us to their friends, to then extend, because we will, at a certain GPA, they all have to meet the GPA, but after that, they can take whatever course they want. Of course, they have to meet the course prerequisites, but outside of that, there's not a reason in the world why a student shouldn't be able to take a course at EKU.
Yeah, I think this idea of just getting some success leads to more success. I'm kind of hearing that. I wanted to hear from you all about, what are your top priorities, like your must-have when it comes to an effective agreement between the university and the high school? What is most important, like, to student success, and most important to making sure they're on that college or career pathway, that they maximize the experience? What's the must-have?
I'm happy to jump in
Yeah.
and start. So my top priority is to ensure that there's a primary contact with each participating district or high school. Because without this, students, parents, and even instructors lose this person to contact within their high school when there's an interest in participating in dual credit, or if there's issues once a student is in the program. The designated contact is pretty much our gateway into connecting with the right people so that we have the conversations that matter about access, success, and course offerings.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, James. Conversations that matter. Thank you. Anybody else?
Robin, I want to say something from the secondary standpoint. I know that there's a lot of discussion, and we had this discussion in our previous meeting about the FERPA, and I applaud you all for figuring out ways to get that incorporated into your dual credit applications, because from a secondary standpoint, it's really good to have that communication about those students and know when students are struggling. A lot of times, people tend to think, but it's a dual credit course. It needs to, and I agree, there needs to be higher standards and things like that, but they're still high school students and they still struggle. So having that constant communication and the ways to reach out to those counselors to discuss when a student is struggling, or even to sing the praises of a student, because I've had, as a counselor, dual credit people from universities reach out to me and talk about how well a student was doing. And when you pass those compliments on to the student, that goes back to setting them up for more success. And, they talk amongst their friends, just like Heather mentioned. So when they figure out that they can do this and they talk to their buddies and they talk about how they can do all these things, it's a snowball effect.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mitzi. Well, it's about time for us to wrap up this conversation. I do want to let everybody know that all of our panelists today have just been very gracious about sharing their contact information. And I asked them the other day when we were chatting before the webinar, what should somebody do if they want to partner with you? And overwhelmingly, they said, just reach out. Just call us or email us, connect with us on social media, because I know that there are great things going at all of these institutions and other ones across the state. So if you're interested in getting a dual credit program started in your high school, or taking your dual credit program to the next level, or if you're a higher education institution and you're interested in partnering with high schools in your area or across the state, reach out to the experts we have on the panel today, and I'm sure that they would be happy to help you. So thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you for sharing your resources. I know everybody will be looking forward to getting those communication plans and those step-by-steps that James shared, all of those things. So thank you again for being here. I'm going to turn things over now to Trinity, who's going to take us through our data challenge for today. So Trinity, let me share my screen and I'll turn things over to you.
Thanks, Robin. Our panelists gave us some great ideas on how to build these dual credit partnerships today and to help build a robust and equitable dual credit programming for all of our schools. So using your data and the data provided to you by your dual credit partners, you have the opportunity to create programming that gives options to all students. So when you're thinking about it, consider your general education courses. Is your high school offering an English and a math option for your students? This is a great place to start. Are local and regional institutions offering these courses that you can tap into? If not, think about your CTE programming. Do you have CTE courses that are currently being offered, but also could be offered as dual credit because they fulfill the same standards? Consider your business, computer technology, engineering, or maybe even family and consumer science pathways. Maybe you just need to get a teacher credentialed to make that possible. When we think about advanced course offerings, AP is often the culminating course in an academic pathway, but consider dual credit as an option. This may help grow a current program pathway that you already offer, allowing students in upper levels to get some college credit. And are your courses aligned with what your students' needs are? Are you using a career interest or exploration program in your current ILP? Many schools use UScience, Zello, or some other platform. And what does this information and data say about your students, that what they're interested in? Oftentimes, schools may be unable to offer all of the courses that their students are interested in because of budgets and staffing, but this is a way that those students can take advantage of this type of elective choice. And then think about your regional economic workforce environment and what does that look like in your area? Are you able to help meet the needs of that area by offering students the opportunity to take dual credit to earn credentials or even degrees earlier? Think about your faculty. Take a survey of your faculty and find out who might be interested in teaching a dual credit course. You might be surprised by the response. I know the first time that I asked my faculty this question, I was. So talk to your universities about what these teachers who are interested in might need to be credentialed. Are there pathways built by your partners to help with scheduling the scheduling burden? I know that figuring out the most logical course for a student is sometimes difficult and time consuming. And so some of our partner institutions, like you heard today, are trying to make it easier by building 1 or 2 year pathways in some of the highest need areas and highest areas of interest. This can also help with students' decisions about majors prior to entering college at a full cost. And maybe your partner institution provides you with yearly data about your students. How does this report help you with that partnership? Can this help you guide and strengthen your partnership? Can these reports help inform your stakeholders about the viability and benefits of dual credit? Many partner institutions will also be providing you with annual dual credit reports that you can analyze and dig into. Are there courses or pathways they offer that maybe you aren't taking advantage of? And can you find out what other high schools in your area might be doing? And can you replicate or build on that? Today, we'll provide you with several examples of partnership resources so you can go back and look at these after the webinar. Whether you're a high school or post-secondary institution, you can use these resources as exemplars. Hopefully, these tools can help guide your dual credit partnership programming analysis.
Okay, thank you, Trinity, for that quick data moment. Just a few reminders before we go. First, please tune back in on March 30th when we will discuss engaging students, parents, and communities. Our guests that day will be Suzanne Burkhart from Shelby County Schools, Jenny Sawyer from U of L, and Sarah Jones from Gear Up. Also, don't forget to let us know if you'd be interested in a dual credit community of practice that's coming this spring. There's no obligation for you to sign up, give us your information. It's just a way for us to connect with you and give you more details to see if you are interested. Again, we want to say thank you to our guests and encourage you to connect with them on social media so that we can continue to learn with and from one another. So you might want to grab a snapshot of that slide there so that you can like and follow them on social media and connect with them. And as always, please feel free to connect with us here at CPE if we can be of any assistance to you in your dual credit journey. Until next time, I'd like to say happy Thursday and thanks again to our special guest.